Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka, Great City of Opa-locka Charter Review Board Meeting. We would like to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7:05.
6:05.
Oh, I'm sorry. 6:05 in the afternoon. Roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Board Member Banks. Here. Board Member Finn.
Here.
Board Member Riley.
Present.
Board Member Vega.
Here.
Vice Chair Williams. Here. And Chair Russell.
Here. Board Member Riley, would you give us an invocation, and then we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Our Father and our God, I thank you, praise you, lift you up, and glorify your name. Thank you for this day that you have made. Thank you for those of us present in order to do your will your way. On behalf of those, your subjects, this I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we open our meeting today, we would like to just acknowledge our city clerk is here with us to answer give us any information that we may need, the office of the city clerk, as well as the office of the attorney to help us out along the way. So we appreciate all of the help that you all can give us, and to our board members. Thank each and every one of you for being here and volunteering your time to come together to continue to make our city great. And as we go through this process, we want to make sure that we're diligent in our work and do the best that we think is right for the city. As I said before, that no one is here to be in charge. We're a board, and we're going to work together to get through this process, because at the end of the day, I believe that all of us are here to make Opa-locka better. We might not always see it through the same lens, but in the end, I think we're all trying to reach the same goal, and that's to make our city great. So I'm gonna open up the meeting for public comments. I don't see, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone that called in virtual?
No.
Okay, well, we're opening it up to the audience. Just see one person out there in the audience. No problem. That's your son.
Hey,
Hi, son.
I picked him up from school. That's Frank Jr. So,
Okay, well, no public comments, then public comments are closed.
yeah.
As you all look at the agenda, do you have any additions, changes, or deletions that you would like to add to the agenda?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on with our discussion items. And I'm gonna allow the attorney to open up for us to give us some, and we always forget, well, I always forget to acknowledge IT. Thank you all for being here. Long days, long days. Madam Attorney, if you would give us some opening statements, please.
Yes, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, and I'd like to just take a point of personal privilege and ask for a moment of silence for the loss of Miss Janie Russell's father today. Thank you. We spoke, the clerk and I spoke with Ms. Russell earlier today, your chair, and we spoke about going through the charter and making sure that everyone felt comfortable with it before you dive into issues. And so what we want to do is just make sure that everybody is educated on what the charter says. We can go through as many, we spoke with the chair about going through 3 areas today. And but we can, depending on how the flow is going and how many questions are asked, And we'll wait for our advisory board member to come up. Welcome. And depending on how many questions are asked and how the flow is going, we can, maybe we get through all of it, but what we thought we'd do is at least start with the first 3 articles and part 1 of the charter. So the first part of it is fairly benign. And while we're getting seating together, let me go ahead and move over and let Commissioner Gibson have this seat.
Madam Attorney, can you speak up a little bit louder? On this end, it's kind of difficult for us to hear. Thank you. Thank you, IT.
No problem. Just trying to get situated here. No problem. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll speak up. I was moving around a little bit. But first, let's talk about the Citizens Bill of Rights. You have a preamble here, and the preamble basically says that we, the people of Opa-locka, in order to secure ourselves the benefits and responsibilities of home rule in order to provide municipal government to serve our present and future needs, do hereby adopt this charter. So this is the preamble for the charter, and then it goes into the Citizens Bill of Rights. So you'll hear in the preamble, you saw some language about home rule, and that's going to be something that's going to, you'll hear a theme of several times as we talk about the charter, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. But first, in the Citizens Bill of Rights, this government, it says, is basically created to protect, you all and protect the public and to give the public full and accurate information. And so it is clear from the things that you'll read here, these things really deal with kind of government in the sunshine issues, how government is open to the public, and what your expectations can be of government as citizens, and how government staff and government officials would necessarily relate to you all. And let's dive in a little deeper. So it speaks of fair and equitable treatment. And these are some of the things that you can expect under the Citizens Bill of Rights. Convenient access. Every person has the right to transact business with the city. And it also goes on to say that it shall be the duty of the city commission and the city manager to provide within budget limitations, reasonably convenient times and places for required inspections for transacting public business with the city. And so again, a lot of this has to do with, making sure that government is open and available to you. Truth in government, you should have an expectation under your Citizens Bill of Rights that no municipal official or employee will knowingly furnish false information to you. So that would be, for someone to knowingly do that, would be really in violation of the rights that you have as a citizen. We mentioned a second ago, public records. So basically all audits and reports, minutes, documents, and I think you all know this, is open to the public. So there are certain things that fall under exceptions to public records law. And we'll let you know if those things are present themselves, because you actually have to tell someone what statute applies if the city is making, or any city or any governmental entity that's subject to the Sunshine Law is making a public records request of some type. You have to let the person know what the applicable exemption would be if you are claiming one. So minutes, the clerk is going to maintain all of the minutes, and she does this with all of the boards really, or there is a clerk for all of the boards, and they make them available for public inspection, any ordinances, papers, minutes, anything. And it says here further, it shall be available for public inspection no later than 30 days after the conclusion of the meeting. And so that's what you can expect for your minutes and anything that would certainly take place within the city. So let's move on to the next page, which would be page 2. And this continues the Citizens Bill of Rights. You have the right to be heard. And so I won't read each of them to you, but I'll tell you generally in summary what it says. And so this, just like in the beginning of this meeting, your chair asked if there was any public comment. You have a right to be heard, and this is actually Florida law as well. And so you will see that people may come and share their opinions. And at some point, hopefully you'll even open it up and, make an attempt to get more people to come to weigh in before you turn this issue over to the city commission, weigh in on what the public thinks about what you all intend to do. And so the city commission will adopt an agenda, procedure, schedule hearings in a manner that will enhance the opportunity for public participation. And in the city of Opa-locka, we actually have as a part of our rules of procedure an outline which has on it specifically public participation and an area that allows for the public to come up during every meeting. And so that's continued with the board meetings like tonight. So you have to have that as a part, not only because Florida law says so, but also your charter does too. So right to notice. Persons entitled to notice of the city hearing shall be timely informed as to the time, place, and nature of the hearing. So whenever there's an ordinance, for instance, there's always, and that's also Florida law, there's always published notice that comes from the clerk's office. Sometimes it's in the paper or in a paper of general circulation within the city, and that's pretty standard. There's no unreasonable postponement. So once an item is placed on the agenda for a formal agenda for a city commission consideration, you can't unreasonably postpone the issue from going on. So failure by an individual to receive notice shall not constitute mandatory grounds for canceling or hearing or rendering invalid any determination made at such hearing. Also, as a part of the Citizen Bill of Rights, you have the right to a public hearing. And so if there's a citizen who upon timely written request wants to make a presentation, a public hearing shall be held at any agency, board, department, or authority upon any significant policy decision to be issued by it, which is not subject to subsequent administrative or legislative review and hearing. So in other words, everything is subject to being in the sunshine. There should be nothing happening from an administrative standpoint that requires a hearing legally that you all cannot participate in. And that includes issues of zoning and things like that. Also, notice of actions and reason. So prompt notice shall be given of the denial in whole or in part of a request of an interested person made in connection with the city administrative decision or proceeding when the decision is reserved at the conclusion of the hearing. So if there's a hearing that takes place of an administrative type, for instance, code enforcement or something like that, then notice shall be accompanied grounds for denial. And there may be other zoning issues. Normally, this is kind of in the zoning context, really. Manager and attorney's report. This basically provides that from time to time, periodically, the city manager and the city attorney will make a report on the public status of major matters pending or concluded within their respective areas of concern. In the case of the city attorney, generally we do that through an executive session. And then once the executive session and the commission hears it in private, that's one of those things that you can do in private. It also issues dealing with union negotiations, things like that. You can meet with the commission in private, but at some point those issues do become public once there's a final vote. Also, with respect to budgeting, under your Citizens Bill of Rights, you have the opportunity to understand the budget. It is prepared, it is made public. There is a public hearing that takes place. And this also relates to state law. It also has some language about relating to as required by state law. So there is a whole in Florida statutes, a budgetary process that has to be followed that allows for public comment and an opportunity basically to be heard. There is also, as a part of the Citizens Bill of Rights, and this is the final area, and this also deals with budget issues, quarterly budget comparison. So the city manager shall make public a quarterly report showing the actual expenditures during the quarter just ended against the one quarter of the proposed annual expenditures set forth in the budget. So this is, I think, routinely done because that you all know that there are a number of budget hearings that we have in the city. Also, the city is currently under state oversight, and so these are done even more frequently than the quarterly budget comparisons that are set forth in the charter. The Citizens Bill of Rights also vests the large and pervasive powers in the citizenry. This is something basically telling you that these powers have a great magnitude, and they are, basically you have the right to ensure that your government is operating orderly, efficient, and fair to the citizenry. All of the Bill of Rights shall be construed to be supplementary and not in conflict with the general laws of Florida. And so there's nothing in these Bill of Rights that's intended to usurp the Florida statutes. And so Florida statutes controls, and then after that, it would be whatever may be in your own charter. Let's go to article. Are there any questions about the Citizens Bill of Rights before we go on?
Madam
No.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Uh,
Oh,
You-
sorry. I'm not-
To the attorney?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the fact that this was read. And the issue I have, Madam Attorney, is that the city violates these things consistently. Give you an idea. Section 13 of our Code of Ordinances provide a due process, which the Constitution guarantees to all of us. For instance, with business licenses. It is never adhered to. And that's part of the reasons that we lose lawsuits, because the city doesn't adhere to its own ordinances and it pays no attention to the city's charter,
Well,
which is a part of the oath.
Let me just say, I don't want to go too far off track. I really want to try to see if we can get through the charter tonight. And maybe you're right on some things, but the city doesn't, over and over again lose lawsuits. I think the city's been doing really well in the last couple of years. So let's, if we can, with all due respect, see if we can move through it, and maybe we can save the questions and comments until the end, and that way we can at least try to get through the charter. If that's okay.
Board Member Riley, you finished with your question?
I like the understanding of what was said. We're going through the charter. Madam Chair, we can go through the charter at any time that is on that's what our purpose is.
Yes,
is to
sir.
go through, but to come to a meeting and go line by line with the charter is I don't understand that.
Well, I can respond to that, Madam Attorney. In speaking to the attorney today and to the clerk as well, we tried to set some order as to how we wanted to go through this process. And I said to them that Mr. Riley, yourself, and maybe a few others up here are more experienced in the charter and what's in the charter. But for some people, it might help them go through this process better. And in saying this, that doesn't mean that one person is more well-versed than the other, because I think that everyone that's here was appointed here because they felt that you could do the job. But I think, Mr. Riley, in going through the charter first, then it helps us, give us a flow of where we need to be, rather than just jumping into issues, and someone might have missed something along the way. So we want to take our time. You know, we know that we have time is of the essence, but I think that the attorney and also the clerk is going to take us through it so that we will understand the process, because we might get to a section 3 and realize that it doesn't line up with what we heard in section 1. So I think if we allow the attorney to go through the process, and this is the will of the board now, you all can agree, disagree, that we go through the process, go through the charter, and then it helps us better get to where we need to be. So let's hear from the other board members as well, because I don't want it to be like, you know, I'm just directing the ship entirely. As a chair, I do direct a little bit, but I don't want to just drive it by myself, okay? So I need to hear from the board. What is your takes? And I think that also, to another point, some issues, I don't think this board can take them up. I think that some issues are going to be commission issues that we have to take up with the commission. I think our job is to go through the charter, see what changes, if any, that needs to be made, and let's try to make those changes and get that done. You all agree with me? Don't agree with me? I need to hear from board members, please.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I totally agree with what you're saying. For any board, and regardless of what the board is, especially when it's a board that's reviewing the charter and coming up with recommendations to the commission, they need to know exactly what is in the charter as well as everything else.
Mhm.
Some of us, yes, I'm looking at it and I know everything that's in here, but I realize everybody do not know.
That's right.
And we don't want someone at the end to say, well, I didn't know that, and I didn't know I could do this or that or the other. So I think we need to listen and let the attorney take us through this.
Anyone?
That's my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Anyone else?
I think it's helpful to have her go through it.
Okay.
I too think it's necessary, not only for us, but for our citizens.
Okay.
I think it's a good point that we know what we're doing. We know what's in the charter, but our citizens should also know, and they could be able to speak on it as well.
Okay. Because they might miss something, and then the next meeting that we have, they can bring it back.
Correct.
Okay, all right, Madam Attorney. Thank you, Mr. Riley. We're gonna move forward. Madam Attorney, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So generally speaking, before we start with Article 1 Incorporation, charters, generally speaking, are as streamlined as possible. So you don't want to put, as a general rule, a lot of stuff in your charter. And I think when the cleanup was done several years ago in 2012, to try to streamline the charter, it was done in a way to make it more akin to what you may see in other city charters. You don't see, like you see the pages here, there are not tons of pages, and that was by design because you want it to be something that is a living, breathing document, not something that cannot be inflexible. Typically you have your charter, and then you have ordinances that will supplement the charter. So for instance, everything can't be in your charter, right? So you want to keep that clean. But, and it generally tells you what kind of form of government it is. It tells you how your manager is hired, how the city attorney's hired, the city clerk. It tells you about the terms of office. It will tell you about how long people can serve, what a salary might be. Those are the kind of things you generally find in charters, and you'll find those things across the board. One thing that you may consider doing, there's something online called Municode, and you can go on it, and it's a really helpful resource for you being able to see, if you're interested, what other cities are doing. A lot of cities in the state, there are other competing entities that also do this type of service, but most of the cities and counties use what's called Municode. And so you can kind of verify what I'm saying about the charter and see that they are, for the most part, very short, and not a lot of things are crowded in your charter, because it talks about your structure of government. So 1.1, going into
Excuse me, Madam Attorney, before you go on to that, at the end of the section where you were at the bottom, there is some numbers down there at the bottom. Explain so that the public will know as well, what are those numbers for down there at the bottom?
Sure. So this actually relates to when changes were made. And this is how Municode tells you what changes or revisions have been made. And so the same thing is true for Florida statutes. If anybody's ever gone to look up a statute, at the very bottom, you can see what year the change was made, how the change was made, and so that's what that designates. And so it will tell you that in pursuant to this resolution, many times it will be an ordinance, but here the city did it where they had a resolution, an ordinance that incorporated the resolution that replaced the charter, basically. And so it refers here to that. And then it also tells you what date it was. So 7/18/2012. And so you'll see that consistently as we go throughout the charter. And there are some areas, well, not here. So in Municode, it actually gives a little bit more information. It even dives a little bit deeper, and it will tell you when it was enacted. You'll see a lot of them that will have 1950 something. And so it's kind of interesting if you have some extra time and you feel like going through Municode. But hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, go ahead.
Incorporation. And so basically this just tells us that this municipality is to be in perpetuity under the name of City of Opa-locka. And that is all of that. That's all that 1.1 means. The corporate boundaries are just like it sounds. These are the corporate boundaries within the city. And this is how we would refer to the city if we were, or Miami-Dade County would, anybody would. These are tracts of the tract of land and what it entails. The next area, 1.3, is the form of government. This is one of the big ticket items, like I told you before, that you might have within a charter. There are different forms of government. There is a strong mayor form of government. There's an elected mayor form of government. There's a commission manager form of government, which most cities and counties are in the state of Florida. And that's what the city of Opa-locka is. And what that means is that basically you have a manager that is a professional manager who is running the day-to-day operations of the city. And normally that's done in a way that the city commissioners, who are the policy makers, are allowing this person to basically conduct business and carry out the policies that the city commission has said that they want to have implemented. And that's the form of government that we have. And so this is pursuant to its provisions and subject only to the limitations imposed by the state constitution and by the charter. All powers of the city shall be vested in an elective council. So basically, under this form of government, the city commission, again, has certain things that it shall do, like it adopts budgets, it determines the policies, it appoints the city manager, the city commission determines who shall execute the laws and administer the government of the city. All powers of the city shall be exercised in the manner prescribed by this charter and of course by state law. So that's the form of government that you have. In terms of the powers, section 1.4, the city shall have All-
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Attorney, anyone would like to have any input or questions in that section before we move on?
Yes, I actually do have one question. So you mentioned strong mayor, you mentioned elected mayor, commission manager, and then mayor commission. No, you didn't mention mayor commission manager. I'm curious, can you explain the difference between the mayor commission manager and the strong mayor?
Well, a strong mayor would be someone who is basically that person is acting as with all powers, and acting as as a manager would, but he or she in Miami-Dade County is elected as the mayor, but that person has basically the administrative responsibilities to oversee the operations, to make certain designated decisions. It may differ a little bit from charter to charter. Miami-Dade County is a strong mayor form of government. And I'd invite our advisory board member Edmondson, if she'd like to speak to that issue. I know that Chairman Edmondson served as the chair, and she probably has a good idea of how that mayor function operates in Miami-Dade County, but that's not what we have. But if you wanted to say something about it.
I think you
Please.
covered most of it. Miami-Dade County has a strong mayor, which means the mayor is responsible for all of the administration as well as all of the employees. The commission have no say-so in disciplining, hiring of any employees except those that fall under the commission. So it's really the mayor, and that's what a strong mayor is about.
Thank you.
And it's a very different form of government than what you have, and it's basically what works for the place where you are. Like I mentioned before, most cities have what Opa-locka has right now. For instance, there are only a few counties even in the state of Florida that have a strong mayor form of government, less than 5, I think. So it's kind of unusual. But when some people argue that when it's a large area or a large, governmental entity and there are regional implications, it warrants it. And then there are other people who will take the position that it dilutes voting power of minorities, or it may, quiet or puts too much power in the hands of one person. So there are pros and cons to it, but it is an unusual form of government, and it will be unusual for not a lot of cities, even in the state, have a strong mayor form of government.
And I have a follow-up to that. So I noticed that some cities do, though, have the mayor commission manager form of government. And so that one is a little bit more common. Can you maybe talk to me about the difference between the mayor commission manager versus just the commission manager form of government?
Well, when you say mayor commission manager, I'm assuming that you mean
Like the city of Miami Gardens has that,
With a mayor vote.
it's a little bit differentiated and separate than.
Oh, I see. Okay, so where the mayor votes. Well, you can structure all of these a little bit differently. And sometimes it comes down to cost, because for when you have structures like that and you have more layers, it's going to be more expensive because that person will have staff that it has underneath, that has to help run whatever that is. But in that case, I think that, you could, even with Opa-locka, you could, structure a form of government where it allowed, or it limited, certain powers or duties, but in most cases, it's going to be the commission manager form of government like you have in Opa-locka.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just as a point of history, Madam Attorney, Opa-locka was founded in May 1926. It started out with a strong mayor form of government. It remained a strong mayor form of government until 1956. In 1956, the charter was changed to where we had a professional manager and a weak mayor form of government. At that particular time, all persons ran for the city commission seat, and the highest vote getter out of the race became the mayor. The second vote getter became the vice mayor. In 1986, the charter was changed again. That created the office of mayor, where the mayor's election was separate from that of the commission. And that is where we are today. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Board Member Riley. I have a question for you, Madam Attorney. In the mayor commission form of government, does the explain that a little bit more to me, mayor commission form of government?
The mayor has the powers to run and would be over staff, deals with day-to-day operations. And that mayor is elevated in status, and here in Opa-locka, for instance, all of the mayor and all of the commissioners are equal. Basically, they all, share one vote. They all have one vote. They all, none of them can interfere in the day-to-day operations. Everybody is equal. The only thing that the mayor has that's different is he is recognized as she is, in our case, she is recognized as the head of the government for ceremonial purposes. And also the person would be someone who, if there were military operations that the governor had to coordinate with, that person would be recognized as the head for those purposes as well. But other than that, everybody here is equal. That would not be the case if you had a mayor commission form of government.
Yes.
Something that I did not state before with the strong mayor. The strong mayor has the ability to veto anything or any vote that the commission puts forward. And the only way that the commission can override that mayor is it has to be a supermajority
3/5
vote in order to override the mayor, which makes it very difficult to do.
The form of government that we have now, I'm not against it, but I have some concerns because the mayor runs for a separate seat in Opa-locka. And most of the time, the mayor has to raise more money to win that seat. That's a separate seat. But the powers that they have are all equal when it comes to voting and all of those things. I don't even know whether the mayor gets a larger salary or something, because Board Member Riley just gave us a little history that, and I know I think they have it in some other cities as well, where everybody runs, and then whoever the highest vote getter is, they become the mayor. So it doesn't seem like, you have to run for the mayor's seat, you got to raise more money to get that seat. But then when you get that seat, you don't have the more power than anybody else. I'm not quite convinced that that's equal. That's a equal, I don't know the right word to use, but for them to have to run separately, raise more money, and most of the time, whatever happens, the mayor is always the one that gets blamed, but they don't have no more power than the other commission. And the commission sometimes makes it very plain that as mayor, you don't have any more power than I do. but you had to run, you had to raise more money. So that kind of sparks my
Well, I will tell you, that's the way it's done in Broward County, and it's complained about all of the time, because what people complain about and what they say is that nobody really knows who the mayor is, and the mayor changes all the time, and they don't know who is going to be the person that they should see for emergency purposes. If, there's a hurricane or whatever, they don't know who the mayor is supposed to be. So you hear that a lot. I mean, there are pros and cons, again, with everything. But, like I said earlier, I hear what you're saying, but this is sort of the way that, everybody operates. People know that if they want the title of mayor, maybe it does take a little bit more, maybe not, depending on the community, to run for that seat. And if you want to look at maybe a different form, and maybe people who have experienced what you're talking about, you all could also have committees where you have people, meetings where you have people come in and they tell you about maybe the structure of government and some other area that you want to investigate or be more like. But I do know Broward is, one, just like you're saying, they vote every year on who the mayor is going to be, and it's a 1-year term, and everybody runs from a seat, and then they basically elect amongst themselves who is going to be the mayor every year. But it does cause, from what you hear, a lot of disruption, and there's no continuity. And what also happens is the plans change. So if somebody comes in and they say, okay, I am for affordable housing, and that's what I'm going to focus on for this year. And then the next year, somebody else comes in and they're like, well, I'm for transportation. And then the next year, it's like, okay, I'm for the environment. So you never really have a lot of consistency in terms of what you're, focused on. So
can I just add to what you said, Madam Chair?
before you, I'm
Go
gonna
for it,
come
yeah.
to you, but you gave me a lot of reasons why we shouldn't. Tell me the good side. What's the good side? I heard a lot of bad. I didn't hear any good at all.
Right. Okay, well, good side. Let me think of the good side.
You can't find it.
Madam
Well,
Chair.
like I said, some people will say that, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
I think
go ahead.
one
I
of the
yield to you.
commissioners wanted to.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say that we all have to look at the citizens would need to make that change, because right now, the way we are a commission manager setup. And I totally agree with that. I just think that it should be that way. And I think we need to get the money out of the way, because, these are public servants. That's the first thing. You're a public servant. So if you're looking for money, then you totally should be out of it. I mean, we're not talking about money for this community. We're talking about being able to assist and make legislation for this community as a whole. But I know this is the procedure. This is the way it's being done. Our mayor is for ceremonial purposes, and I just feel that that's the way it should be, if we can get them all on one accord, so that they all can make decisions for the community as a whole. But they must remember that they're public servants. If they're coming in for money, you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place to make money. I didn't want to interrupt, because I just do agree with what it is. I
Okay.
just think we need to critique it. We need to get people in that actually want to do things for the community, and put aside this money factor. There are other benefits to being commission and mayor that come with it. I won't get into some of those things. I don't think I need to say that for the board or even for our citizens, but there are other perks to it. But when we come in under the creed says that we are public servants, and that's what we should do. We need to come back to that, being public servants for the community and for the people. I think we've lost that. So I don't agree with that. I'm very aware of the other municipalities and how they're running their municipalities, but I agree with this, the commission manager, even though we have not been the greatest at it. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. So, Madam Attorney, I'd like to request maybe it'd be helpful to perhaps see how some other municipalities are handling this, particularly as we talk through these different forms of governments. So I know I've done some research. I think to Madam Chair's point, you've given us the negative, but I know there has to be some positive to it. And I think to your point, the different municipalities structure it in different ways, but I think if we had something to compare it to, perhaps that just give us a little bit more background. So can I request that maybe at the next meeting, we bring a couple of different examples of the strong mayor, of the mayor commission manager, and perhaps some of those other forms of governments that we can review and talk through?
Well, generally, what you might do is have your clerk set up speakers and have some people come in and talk with you who are actually, in that, because just reading from a page is probably not going to give you any
Yes,
real
enough.
pop life examples, right? So if you, maybe you can, through the chair, request of the clerk. I know Joanne's like killing me in her head, but but that's who would set that up.
Yeah.
And so maybe you have people come in and you just talk about spend a meeting on forms of government, and that would be a really good thing to do. And that way you hear all sides, because I think everybody's kind of jaded in what they think based on their experiences. But
Yes.
if you have people come in and give you their own experiences that they're living, that would be best.
You
That would be
finished?
great.
Okay,
Yes.
Madam Clerk, can you help us out with that? Maybe set up that we can talk to some people, and I know Board Member Riley, being a former mayor, I don't know whether you were on the commission during the time that those other forms of government, you've always been under the commission manager form of government? Board Member Riley?
The city, right, since I've been in Opa-locka, that's the form of government.
That's the form
Yes.
of government, okay.
But you asked a question that I would like to chime in on. What was the positive things of creating the office of mayor in the city of Opa-locka? Okay, there was consistency because each person ran for there were some commissioner seats was only 2 years,
Mhm,
and there was some for 4 years.
mhm.
Okay, the person was at one point we had a tie vote, and we had a person to be mayor for 1 year and another person be mayor for 1 year. That was Al Tresvant and Candace Giordino. That was Ms. Banks, 1974, correct? Okay. What happened is that to get consistency going with the 4-year term, there was things that could happen that was not happening before. For instance, we are members of different organizations, cities are, municipalities. There were times when, say, the National League of Cities or the Florida League of Cities, we had members, because of who they was on the board of on the National League or the National Conference of Black Mayors or the World Conference of Mayors. In those positions, there are certain things that gets to that person that doesn't get to a commissioner or other cities, and that brings opportunity. For instance, there were an opportunity the city of Opa-locka got with the country of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was going to invest some $123 million in the city of Opa-locka. But because of elections, when the next person came in, they wasn't their idea. And so it went down. But they didn't think of a term, what that would have done for this community. The other thing we haven't worked on, the other thing we have to really look at, and I want us to remember this, Miami-Dade County is a unique county. It's a chartered county. Broward is not a chartered county. There are things that done in Broward that can't be done in Dade. when Miami-Dade County makes a law, every city here is required to carry it out.
Mhm.
That's not the case in Broward. That's not the case in a number of other counties. In fact, it's the only county that happens, okay? And the other counties, municipalities, charters is governed by Chapter 166 in the Florida statute. It does not apply to a chartered county. So it doesn't apply to cities in Miami-Dade County. So there's a lot of differences and positive things that goes on, but with the office that we have with the form of government it has, it gives a professional the operation of the day-to-day operation. But the political end is allows them to do certain things, and wherever you go, they're going to recognize and it's known who the mayor of that city is.
Mhm.
That's just the way it is. And that's from my experience, that's how it's done.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for the input. And Joanne, I don't know whether you can answer this, but can you give me a sense of what is the difference in being also the supervisor of elections? You don't have to give me a specific number, but how much is the difference between what a commission raises to run average and what a mayor it takes to run in the city? You can give me an average. You don't have to give me.
Well, I think there are limitations in terms of how much a person can contribute, but in terms of the total amount,
Mhm.
it varies based on the candidate. And at this time, I don't have an average because some years you have, some election years, you have candidates who may raise 5,000 versus a candidate who may raise 15,000. So
Okay.
it kind of varies.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
But I think Vice Chair asked, you will follow up with us on that.
Will do. I'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Attorney. We can, if anyone else have anything they would like to add? Okay, we can.
Okay, section 1.4, under this section, it talks about the powers, and you're talking about the powers of the municipality in general. And so basically, the municipality can exercise any power for municipal purposes except as otherwise provided by law. And so this still goes to what we talked about earlier, being the exercise of home rule powers. And that's set forth in Article 8, Section 2B of the Florida Constitution. And so that's what gives the municipalities the home rule powers to operate, except for in the limited case of in the Miami-Dade County, of course, which is as was pointed out, a charter county where what it imposes in terms of certain regulations will also apply to municipalities within its boundaries. However, they can also operate or seem to be very similar, because even in Broward County, for instance, and I sat on the Charter Review Board twice for 2 terms, and I'll tell you there, the way that operates, there are certain kind of things like certain land regulations that are imposed if Broward County enacts it, the municipalities have to follow. There are also certain, there was passed a few years ago an ethics commission, and all of the counties have to, and that was passed by a county referendum, and all of the municipalities have to abide, just like in Miami-Dade County with the public trust. So that's very similar. And there are some other things that the county can exercise, but generally speaking, only in the context of land use. But in any event, under powers 1.4, that's pretty much what this entire area deals with. It deals with the powers of the city being liberal in favor of the city and limited only to the Florida Constitution. There are certain special acts that can be passed if it has to do with jurisdiction. For instance, there may be annexation issues or things like that that change the boundaries of the city. And this is basically saying that if certain special act was passed by the legislature, that we would have to consider that to be a part automatically of our charter without necessarily you don't have to have a referendum. That will be automatically considered a part of the charter. So the powers of the city, in addition to limitations imposed by law, are further limited to these two things. The commission shall have and exercise all powers of the city, not specifically conferred upon other officials and employees. It may delegate any power except the power to fix the rate of taxes, enact ordinances and resolutions, incur debt, adopt a budget, and appropriate money. So those things are left to the city. They can't delegate those things away. The city may not otherwise dispose of in part of its real property now or hereinafter held for parks. So if it's a park or playground or something like that, it has to be passed by a 4/5 vote of the city commission in order to be enacted. A 3/5 vote will not do, because even the Florida Constitution considers, public space, park space, open space to be, very important to the quality of life that people enjoy. Going on to Article 2, if there are no questions about that section.
Any questions concerning that section? I think we're gonna get to the juicy part.
Going to Article 2, City Commission. This is 2.1 that I'm looking at in the election and term of office, and I'll read it verbatim. The commissions shall consist of the mayor and 4 commissioners elected from the city at large in the manner and for terms provided for herein or until their successors have been elected and take office. And so all this means is that if there's a city commissioner, it's going to be a term or a mayor. It's going to be for a term it's going to be for a certain term and shall consist of, so all of these people, the commission in whole consists of the mayor and 4 commissioners. It's not just, the 4 commissioners or the city commission. Some people get confused by that and they think that the mayor is not included, but what this charter says is basically the commissions shall consist of the mayor and 4 commissioners. And go to the next page, if you would, page 5 I'm looking at. The term limits. This is right now, this was passed back in 2014. And it was updated, and basically a commissioner or mayor can serve no more than 8 consecutive years. There has to be a break in terms of service. So if someone, let's say they served as the commissioner for 8 years and then they said, okay, I'm going to run for mayor, and there was no break, they just ran. This would prohibit that, because this basically says that no person may appear on the ballot for re-election to office of mayor or commissioner of the city of Opa-locka if they have served basically for 8 consecutive years. The purpose of the section shall include any service on the city commission. So regardless of whether that person was serving as a commissioner, just a commissioner, not the mayor, or the mayor and the commissioner, it applies to everybody. And in addition to that, the 8 consecutive years are just that, consecutive. And so that means no breaks in the service. So you ran, you got reelected, and because of course the terms are for 4 years. And then, there can be, if there was a break in between, then that wouldn't be consecutive, right? So.
Madam Attorney.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go on, there's a lot of chatter in the community concerning this section when the term limits were done. When this was brought into law, some commissioners or mayor at that time were at the limit. I guess, that consecutive limit that they could have had. So the next mayor came in for a 2-year term instead of 4-year that had been on the commission already. So I'm trying to find out, when you say they have to sit out, there's nothing in here that says how long they have to sit out.
It doesn't matter. I think it's clear. If it's consecutive, you can't run for reelection, period. So I know that there had been some issue before, or and even some litigation, I understand. But I think it's clear, right? It even talks about retroactive and it applying retroactively. So, which is the very D of that section. So when I read this, I wasn't sure what the confusion was about, honestly, because I think the language is clear. And I think that, it speaks for itself. And from what I understand, the judicial rulings related to it clarified, and supported the fact that it does speak for itself. So while people can sue for anything, that's what people do sometimes. You can't stop people from suing. But, I do think when you read it, it is clear. So people may feel one way or the other, but I think the language, speak for itself. And then now we have a situation where all of the people who would have been subject to that issue are no longer in office. So it's not even really relevant at this point, right? Because those people, we don't have anybody who has even served a full 4-year term at this point.
Okay, so people that have been on the commission previously, they are now eligible. If
Absolutely.
they've set out 2
Yes.
years, 4
Mhm.
years, they're now eligible to come back. and
Absolutely.
Run for office.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
So,
anyone?
yeah, one question that I do have, and I don't know if it's a question, I think it's a comment. So it says that no person may appear on the ballot for reelection. So ultimately, they could, though, let's say that there was a vacancy, they could be appointed. And so it doesn't define in here how long they need to sit out. So what could potentially happen, right? If for whatever reason there's a vacancy, somebody sits out for 30 days, they could be appointed. And so I guess the comment is that it's interesting that the language just says for reelection as opposed to service, right? Something along that lines, that they have to sit out for a certain period of time before they can actually come back and serve, whether it be appointed or elected.
I think that's a really good point. And my recommendation of this issue came up, let's say somebody served for 8 years and something, God forbid, something happened to somebody who was serving, and then the commission decided they were going to reappoint that person. I think that would be a valid reappointment, because they would have set out, even if it were, 10 days or 2 days.
Yeah.
I think that would be a valid reappointment.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, may I please?
Yes,
I just want to remind the board and the city attorney that the city did experience an opportunity where we had to actually have a commission appointed. So it does make a difference at the time.
mhm.
It does.
I see
For the
Board
record,
Member-
Madam Attorney, I will,
I see
through
the-
the chair.
I see Board Member Riley rising to the seat. Go ahead.
The petition that the residents signed reference to term limits.
Mhm.
The language on the petition is different than what the language ended up in the charter. That should not have happened, but it did happen. The language that was in the petition that the residents signed to get it on the ballot
Mhm.
is different than what the language is in the charter.
I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with the issue at all, so I can't speak to it. But the clerk
Okay.
may be able to.
Just,
Answer
excuse me, let's do this. Board Member Riley, if you wanna, you said it, you want an answer from the clerk, or
No,
the attorney
I
says
was
that she
not-
can't?
No, I was informing her. And the question on the 2012 ballot, the ballot question,
Yes,
the ballot question in 2012 says shall the charter, City of Opa-locka charter be updated? And all of these changes happen. And that is, the law is, you're supposed to be specific as to what is being changed. But there was one question on the ballot and the entire charter was changed. People didn't know anything about that. So,
Okay,
so
but-
you wanna, so I'm just giving you what it is, when we were gonna talk about what's legal and what the language is and all. And yes, Madam Attorney, the court ruled and allowed people who had 8 consecutive years service to be on the ballot.
okay.
Right.
So, to the chair, so with respect to the, how the language is written, normally what happens is, and I'm thinking that this probably happened then, but I can't say for sure, but Joanna can verify it. There would have been a question, and then there would have been a place that residents could have gone, likely the clerk's office, to review the language. So that's generally what's done, because if you're replacing the entire charter, you can't have the entire charter on as the ballot question. And so you have an ordinance that's done, and I suspect if you were to pull up the ordinance would have had attached to it all of the language that would have been applicable to what was being changed in the charter. And so, while I wasn't here, I'm pretty sure that's, and Joanna, you tell me if I'm wrong, that's what happened.
You are correct that the new charter was actually made available on the website. It was available at City Hall for people to come in and view it. And there are limitations in terms of the ballot questions on how many words can be, for that question. I think it's 75 words, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And obviously, if you're replacing the entire charter, that's not going to be. But the charter was made available to the public prior to, the actual election, and it was online. It was in our office for people to come in and view it as well.
Okay,
Just, I just want to just say
Excuse me.
something.
go
The,
ahead.
the marijuana question for the constitutional amendment, that was 4 pages on the ballot. Okay? The question was small, but all of the particulars was 4 pages on the ballot. I've seen the county have questions on the ballot, and the question is small, but what is the particulars, the backup for it is red, and it's all on the ballot. That's all I was saying. Madam Chair,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to ask to be excused because we've done some time here. And I didn't know it was gonna be as long as it is for this, our plan for next Thursday, but this I didn't plan for.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Riley, and thank you for your expertise, and we appreciate all you have to offer to this board. So,
Should I continue?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's it for 2.1.1. Now we're moving to 2.2, which deals with qualifications. The mayor and commissioners shall be qualified electors of the city. If the mayor or a commissioner shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude, in this case, her, it does say his in most of the charter, but it relates to both, shall be immediately, the seat shall immediately become vacant. And so I think everybody sort of understands that there are certain qualifications even under Florida law. And so if any of these things happen, then the person is no longer considered to be qualified to hold office. Under 2.3, mayor and commission compensation, this is an area that has come up in the past, and the compensation for the mayor and commissioners shall be set at $550 per month. This was, I guess, voted down twice, I'm told, by the voters. The issue of salary and compensation had come up in the city commission meetings and put later out to the voters as a part of a referendum, and the voters voted it down. I know that there was some discussion about it at the last or the very first meeting that you all had in terms of the organizational meeting. I can just keep going since we're, just kind of talking about the charter now, and then you can dive into whatever you feel is appropriate at the time that you want to do it. Section 2.4, presiding officer, mayor, commissioners, vice mayor. Basically, this tells us that the candidate for mayor receiving the highest number of votes in each general election shall serve for a term of 4 years immediately following, and have the title of mayor, and shall preside at the meetings. And so this is the section we were talking about earlier, which talks about what does the mayor do in the city of Opa-locka. And it really in most cities, and the mayor is the person who is recognized as the ceremonial head of the city, and also the person who, for military law purposes, is in contact with the governor, but has no administrative duties. And so that's the difference between this form of government again, and in a strong mayor form of government, which that mayor would have administrative duties. The next section of this is the candidate for commissioner receiving the highest number of votes in each general election shall be for a term of 2 years immediately following. They will have the title of vice mayor. And so just like the vice mayor in the, before she became mayor, after the mayor left, she was the vice mayor because she had received the highest number of votes. And then that person would serve in that capacity for 2 years. And then because you have staggered elections, you'd have another, person coming in as the highest vote getter because of the staggered elections. And then that person would become the vice mayor automatically. All candidates for office of mayor shall qualify and stand for election separate and apart from those candidates qualifying and standing for election as commissioners. And so everybody stands alone and they declare their seat. The term of office of mayor shall be 4 years. And the term of office for all of the commissioners as well is 4 years as well. Moving on to section.
Madam Attorney, before we go on, I would like to have some discussion on this. Board Member Riley left, but on the last meeting, this was one of the concerns that he had, that we look at compensation for the commission. So I would like to stop right here and spend some time asking board members, what do you think? Our mayor and commission gets $550 a month. Do they get medical insurance or any type of what other type of benefits? So it's just his $550.
The clerk would need to answer it. I think that there had been an issue where they were getting benefits, but then the state came in and said that was inconsistent with maybe the charter. I guess that may have been the issue. But Joanna, do you remember the issue?
Yes, so currently at this time, the member and the commission members, they each receive $550 a month for compensation. Like the city attorney stated, they were receiving at some point medical insurance and dental insurance. But due to an audit finding from the state, that was, taken away. So they no longer receive any type of benefits outside of the $550 monthly compensation. In addition to that, in the code, there is a section that allows each member to receive $200 monthly allotment, and that's on a reimbursable basis. And that's for perhaps gasoline, things of that nature for official city business. And like I said, that's on a reimbursable basis, meaning they have to do the expenditure first and then bring in the receipts and get reimbursed for that. And that's up to $200 per month.
for each member.
So Madam Chair,
Yes,
so I'd like to ask, to your point, there's been a lot of discussion about section 2.3. I'd like to ask if maybe the clerk could prepare some research that shows what the other mayors and commissioners are receiving throughout Miami-Dade County, because at least that allows us to act from an informed place.
Our office, I guess when they were going through the issue of the benefits and having that taken away from the elected officials, we did do some research. So we already have like some cities, in terms of their compensation and benefits that we receive. So we don't have any issues bringing that information back to the board.
Perfect, thank you.
and yes, ma'am.
I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can we have some type of knowledge of when the last increase took place or when the change of, if there've been any compensation change?
Yes, I'll also provide, I believe there were several attempts in the past to increase the compensation, but I'm not sure. I'll do some research. I think at one time it did go before the voters, but it was denied and that didn't go through. So as long as I've been here, their compensation
Has been the
at
same?
at $550 per month, yes.
So
But
if
I'll
there's
bring what I
any
have,
change
the
in it,
information that I
if we
have in
could
my
find.
office, I'll also provide it to the board.
Yes,
I
sir,
have a
Mr.
question.
Vega. Yes, sir.
How old is the information you have with the other cities for their pay or what the other cities are doing?
The information that we have, it was actually, we contacted the cities, it was in September of last year.
Yeah.
September 2021.
That's close enough.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, I know that the commissioners at one time was getting also a car allowance, or they were given city vehicles to drive. And when the state came in, I know that they stopped that as well. And that's one question I would like you to answer. And then the second one is, when the state decided to take away the medical insurance, was it because it was not a part of the charter? Because the charter says that there shall be set at $550 a month. Did they take it away because it needs to be in the charter, or what was the finding?
So I actually have not seen the finding. I can only go based on what was discussed at a public commission meeting. And the statement made at that time that it was due to some audit finding. And yeah, so it was due to some audit finding. And to answer your question with regards to the vehicles, yes, each member of the city commission at some point had a city issued vehicle, and they also had the city provided gasoline for those vehicles as well. When we went under financial emergency years ago, the state came in and because there was no policy or anything in place, they took those vehicles away. And I think the issue is the same in terms of the benefits. There's nothing in the charter or anywhere that spells out that the commission should receive these benefits. So that may be one of the reasons why, it also was taken.
Because most of the time when there's an audit finding, it's because there's no, it's not documented anywhere. There's no policy or no procedure that says that you can do this. And I would imagine that this is the area as to why the state went back and took it. My position on this is that I think that this is absolutely, positively ridiculous. We expect, Ms. Banks said it earlier, we expect our commission, mayor, to be public servants, but they also live. And you can't expect a person to take off from their job. Each one of us up here if we're not working, we have worked on a job and we don't work for free. We expect a lot out of our elected officials, which they should give us. They should, but I think they should be compensated for what they do. I think that they should have a vehicle that whether it's a city loan vehicle or whatever, I think that it should be done, because if you expect people to get a job done, you got to give them something to look forward to. And we wonder why. I poll my community. I poll young people that live in my community. Why won't you come step up to the plate and run for office? And it's because there's no, the work is too hard and there's no incentive to do it. So yeah, the voters might vote it down again, but then it would take me to my next question after I finish with my comment. We have to do better as a city. If we want better, we got to do better. So no, we might not be able to pay them what they make in other cities, but I think that they should have some benefits, because nobody up here will go on a job and say, I'm going to give you sometime. Our commissioners, they have events in the middle of the day. That means they have to leave their job. If they have a job to go to that event, what are they going to use? Their sick time, their vacation time that they take away from their family? It's not fair. I do not think it's fair.
Madam
So
Chair,
yes,
Chair.
ma'am. So being a public servant, but you don't have, well, I won't make that comment, but before you go, Ms. Banks, I want to ask, I had a question, made me lose my train of thought,
Sorry.
but go ahead, Ms. Banks, and then we'll come back.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I am a 52-year resident here in the city of Opa-locka.
Yes,
52
ma'am.
years I've been here in the city.
Mhm.
And 24 years with the city of Opa-locka as an employee here.
Mhm.
I'm also a taxpayer here. If the state,
Me too.
I realize that, but if the state can come in and put a hold on our finances, it means that our commissioners have to have a hold on what's going on with them. I think anyone that runs for a public office, first of all, you're not here for the money. You're not here to collect money. You're here to be a public servant to the people in this community. Our commission should be here to make legislation to pass so that we can become a better commission. I mean, a better community. So if they're coming in looking for money, I'm making myself to the board. I'm telling you where I stand on this. And I don't want to go there, but you can run for the office. It doesn't require a whole lot of money to run for office for the city of Opa-locka, okay? But if they're looking for this compensation that they're looking for, then they shouldn't come in to, especially right now. I say that right now. Now, if the city was doing good and we had plenty of money and taxes are sky high and all these things are going on in the community, why would you want our tax-paying residents to want to give them a raise when we have issues that are going to come up on this dais about our employees also? These are the issues we need to be adjusting. We need to talk about these things. We need to work it out with our commissioners. Our commissioners need to do their job. And that is to be a public servant and to make the legislation and pass the legislation to make us a better community. So now $550, the state says that's what this charter says, and that's what they should get. The same as our employees have been put on hold and they've been told no raises until you come out of this. One hand washes the other. That's just the way life is. I just don't see it any other way. If we can tell our employees that you're not going to get a raise for the next 5 years while we're going through this with the state, but you want to raise the money for the commissioners from $550. Now, I agree, maybe we can give them some health care. I don't know. There were specific reasons why the state came in and said, we're taking your car, we're not giving you this, we're not giving you that. There's specific reasons for that. I think if the board wants to know that, then we can ask Joanna to bring that information so we can know why and what took place, that those items were taken away from them. We want to be transparent, so let's be transparent so that the board, all board members know exactly what's taking place in the city. Because we're not at that part where we can go in and say, we want to give them $16,000 a year. For what? You knew that when you ran. When you ran for office, you knew you weren't getting any money. If you didn't, you should have did your homework. You should have did your homework. Come on. So I stand adamant on it as a board member here. I stand adamant on it. No money. No money right now until we get a clearance and everything is okay and our taxes can come to a standard where we can live a little bit. I mean, the community has been there's a lot that we've gone through in this community, our people, for quite some time. So until we can actually see where we can come in and give them money, then I say, yes, give them money. Give them the money. Come up with a standard and give them some money. I'm not against giving them money now, but I'm saying you can't have the community on hold with everything that's going on, potholes and the things that we've gone through, not to mention the pandemic and all this that's going on. Senior citizens in our community still need things. There's a lot going on here, y'all. Come on. And we need to consider these things. So I stand adamant as a board member here. I just don't see the reason, and even I just don't. That's my opinion though, okay? And that's my opinion as a 52 resident here, 52 years in this community, a taxpayer here, never missed one day, never in the city of Opa-locka is working as an employee. But I too went through it. So I stand firm on it. No money until we can pull out of this and we can see where we can take care of our employees. We can take care of our community. Then we can take care of our commissioners also. And we can give them a standard of whatever amount of money that we can come up with, or the board or the commission can come up with our assistance to give them. Now, don't rule out the fact that I'm saying totally no money. I'm saying not right now. We can't give it to them right now, because we've gone through too much. The community has gone through too much. And at the same time, you got to look at the community as a whole. Our demographics have changed totally in this community, okay? From when I first came here, it's totally changed. There's a lot more to do in this community in order to bring it up and bring it to be a standard for the, I'm sure Tallahassee would look at that and say, you know, hey, we'd like to see you guys do this. You know, we're looking at the money. All we want to do is make sure that your money is good. And if your money's good, you guys do whatever y'all want to do, okay? So, Madam, that's my opinion.
Thank you, board member
Thank you so much.
Banks. Mr. Vega,
Yes, I think we should review the package other cities are
Yes.
offering, review what's going on in the city. The city has changed. You got a lot of new gigantic warehouses generating real estate taxes that the city gets a part of.
right.
There's new projects in the city. Excuse me, I just don't see why this city is having it has had the financial issues it's had, especially in today's day,
Yes.
because things are different.
Yes.
And that's my opinion. I look
Yes.
at it as a businessman. And I'll give you my business vision. And we should review it and see what other cities, you want to capture good people, you got to take care of your people. Your people, you can't do it by yourself. You need your team. Take care of your team and your team will take care of you. And that's just the way it works.
That's true.
And I think that $550, it's unreasonable. It's way too low. That's my
Thank you.
opinion.
And we appreciate your opinion is just as valuable as mine is, Mr. Vega. Just know that.
Just in Lejeune Road, you got a 1 million square foot of warehousing, brand new warehousing. That's gonna generate jobs. That's gonna generate a tremendous amount of real estate taxes that the city gets a piece.
Mhm.
So I think things are better, moving on to the future. If the city manages the money correctly, we should be in a good direction. And that's why I'm a businessman. And that's why I'm sitting here. Anything that I can think of and can
Yes.
help, I'll bring it up.
Thank you,
And
thank
Madam-
you, thank you.
Madam Chair, one other
Before-
thing, one other factor I
Before,
want to
Ms.
bring
Banks,
in. if I
before
can.
you go, we want to get to, I'm gonna get back to you, but a board member here and also the vice chair had her, wanted to say something as well, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am saying this because I heard the comment, I think it was our chair, that said, no one wants to run and we get the same. I'm one of the young ones. And I want to serve. But you can't bring us in this day and age and ask us to work for $550 because with serving comes time to do the service. And although I may have a job, and I know all of our servers have jobs, they're taking sick pay, they're taking leaves, so they're losing. And $550 is a joke. And without insurance plans, without benefits, maybe they already have them. And they can have a clause to opt out so they don't have to receive the one from the city.
Mhm.
So we got to take into account that we need to give something because we're going to get the same people running for these seats. And as one of the young ones and been questioned, you have that political science degree, you want to be in politics, why you don't do it? This is one of my reasons, because I have a family and I want to give 100%. But I can't do 100% if that's all I'm going to get, because then I need to work another job and another job and another job. So then how can I give a 100%? So we've got to consider time has changed, prices have went up, things that have been changed, it takes more. So why can't we give just a little more to say, thank you for giving your service? We think highly of you. We appreciate you. We don't think this is the same 1956. So considering a higher compensation doesn't mean we have to give $1,000 and $1,500 a month. It's just a little bit more cushion to say that thank you. A little bit more to give incentive to get others that may want to do it, but they back down because of this to come in. Because I'm sure that we have residents sitting right here that may want to do something, but this is one of the forefront reasons that they don't step up. So if we want to be a great city of Opa-locka, let's be great to our servants.
Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to actually say, well, request that maybe we get back to reviewing. I know this is a hot topic item, and I imagine it's going to come up. You're going to bring some research. And so instead of maybe debating it tonight, although all of these, so many great thoughts up here, I just wonder if perhaps we can get back to going through this, since we were going to try to get through the first 3 sections, which I don't think will happen tonight, but maybe we can try to get a little bit further. So,
Before I get to Ms. Banks, in short, the reason why I wanted to flush this out, because I think it's important that this is a subject that is hot. It was brought up from the beginning. So if we hear one another, we hear Ms. Banks, you hear the board, you hear Mr. Vega. So now when you go home and you sit back and you think about it, you look at your community, you have some more input. It's not, you have input because we're sensitive to Ms. Banks being a 50-year resident, but we're also sensitive to the businessmen that say that you have more businesses coming in that is bringing more revenue. And I believe that with proper management, we could come out of the financial oversight of the state and hold elected officials accountable. That's what we failed to do. We failed to hold them accountable. We failed to do the things that is in this preamble. You know, come to budget hearings, find out where the money is going, how you're spending the money. I think that we as residents, we fail to do that because we're volunteering for, most of us sit on multiple boards. We're volunteering our time. I'm not just doing this because, you know, I just love coming sitting on boards. I have a family. I have other things that I'm involved in. I have grandchildren that love to hang out with their grandmama. But I volunteer my time because I know it's important to the community. So I think, Vice Chair, that it's good to flush the hot topics out. So it gives us something to go home and to think about. We think about not just our views, we think about how our other board members feel. Then we put all that in the pot together. Ms. Banks said she's not totally against nothing, but she just doesn't think a certain thing should happen. So what we need to do is to hear one another. We're passionate. We're very passionate about this. We're very passionate, but we want to attract the best in our community, not only as employees, but as elected officials. And I think that with term limits, we've made one step with the term limits in the right. But you hear the commissioners say that, you know, if the commission meeting runs to 10 o'clock, I got to be to work 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, that's real life. And they're young people that have careers. So we have to take all of this in, think about it. Don't just think about our ideas. Mr. Vega, you know, you being a businessman, being up here is very important. You give us that business point of view. Look at all the new businesses that are coming to our community. They're bringing more dollars. They're bringing more tax dollars. When it gets to the city, hold the commission accountable. If they don't do the right thing, don't vote for them again. That's what I think.
I have a question, and maybe has nothing to do with this. How much money, and maybe we don't have this answer, and maybe it shouldn't be, how much money is the city behind to get out of the situation they're in? Do you have that answer?
We don't have that answer tonight.
don't have
And
that
then
answer.
that would probably be the city manager that,
Okay.
and I know they did the 5-year recovery plan. I don't know how far they are with the 5-year recovery plan, but we're gonna let Ms. Banks and then we're gonna go because we're gonna be out of here before 8 o'clock because everybody has something and I gotta
Of
run
course.
down, check on my mom.
I thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to say this, when to Mr. Vega also, especially, and with all due respect, when you have an employee with your job and you review them accordingly, you compensate your employees that do well, do you not? Is that a standard
Yes.
practice, Mr. Vega?
Yes.
That's a standard practice for the city of Opa-locka also. But when Mr. Vega's business is not doing well, you have to tell your employees, we're not doing well. I can't give it to you. Not at this moment. Or you look in your budget and you review and see if there's any way possible that you can come up with that money to take care of that good employee that you want to compensate. All right. That's the way the standard should be for good, to me, good moral and values are all things that come with being a good boss also. Okay.
If you see as a business that it's going in the wrong direction and you cannot take care of your employees, you got to dig back and see where the problem is. And maybe
True.
you got to do some budgeting
True,
and
true.
cut here and cut there
True.
and
True.
keep less people on the job, but take care of the people that you have there. There's got to be a direction. There's got to be planning.
True. Which brings me, and I wanted to hear that from you,
And
which brings
you
me
have
to the
to,
budget.
and
our
you have to
budget.
figure out, generate new income. How do we make the
True.
income grow?
True, which brings me to the
So-
budget, because if you look at our budget right now, and anybody can pull up our budget and look at it, okay? Do we have money in the budget? If any board member can answer this question right now, do we have money in our budget right now that we can come up with all line items on that budget and come up with money where we can give them this money, I'll vote for it.
Well,
Otherwise, I would have to say no right now. There are, if you look at our budget with the businesses that we're bringing in, some of the businesses, if we can get the revenue that we should be getting from them, there's no telling where Opa-locka would go. And there are factors I don't want to get into on this board right now,
yes,
but if we were to get it, and will the budget allow us, and there's nobody here to vouch for what our budget is, but does our budget allow for us to come up from some line item to come up, because the money has, when you're dealing with money, you got to pull money from somewhere. And that money has to go towards something to accomplish something.
okay.
So I don't mean to be going.
That's
I'm
okay,
very
you're
passionate
passionate,
about it.
you're
I'm very
passionate,
passionate
you're
about it.
passionate.
So
So,
I rest on it.
okay,
and we'll
so
go
what
from
we're
there,
going,
okay?
what we're going to do, if I may, we're going to rest on this area, but before we do, I'm gonna ask former Commissioner Edmondson.
I'm here to advise, and I think the policies and the charter, the recommendations should come from the board.
Uh-huh,
Not me, I'm just here to advise, is whatever you all decide you want to do, or however you want to vote. I can advise on what occurs in the county as well as some of the other
Please.
municipalities.
please.
When we had it, but those were the citizens. I'm not a citizen of Opa-locka.
Mhm.
So I think the recommendations and what I'm hearing, and I hear some great debates here tonight. And I think that's something that I'm not going to tell you how you should compensate your commission. That has to come from you all.
Okay. But can you tell us in your knowledge, advise us, give us some advice on some areas that if we did agree to compensate, some areas that we can compensate, that would be within what other municipalities or what happens in the county or wherever.
Well, I can tell you that county commissioners make $6,000 a year,
Mhm.
and that's the whole entire county. All, what is it, 2.8 million people?
Mhm.
They do get some benefits. Insurance. You know, I still get the life insurance. I still get dental. But other than that, that's what I'm getting. El Patel, that's $2,000 a year. But then when you go to the city of Miami, they go from the formula, and most municipalities, especially within the state of Florida, as well as the counties, they go from that formula that the state has set. And the state have set a formula for municipalities and counties to go by. And normally, if you go from that formula, you don't get a kickback from your community. It's when you go above that formula.
Okay.
I hope
Yes, you did.
Okay.
That was really good. So what we could do for our homework as a board is look at that state formula for those of us that think that there should be some compensation. Let's look at the state formula. Madam Clerk, if it's something that you could help us out with and maybe shoot us an email, what the state formula is, and then we'll have an educated start. I think that's what the vice chair was saying, that, you know, we should have some standard that we go by. So everyone, thank you very much. And also, Madam Attorney, thank you for your diligence. And we're gonna stop here tonight because we don't want to wear you all out where you don't come back next meeting. Thank you to the audience that you all that are in the audience. Thank you
Right.
very much. And we're gonna remain passionate about this because this job that we're doing here it requires you to have some level of passion.
And
for your
Madam
community.
Chair,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
may, just one last thing. When we pick up again, we would be picking up at section 2.5 because we had actually gone through the end of page 8. So
Okay.
it will be 2.5. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm asking you all to keep me and my family in your prayers, in your thoughts. I lost my father on yesterday. And for those of you all that know my mom, you know, she loves to come down here in Opa-locka and help out and do whatever she can do. So I gotta run down to Coconut Grove and see about her tonight as well. So y'all pray for us. And thank you all very much to the community. Thank you for coming out. And we look forward to another passionate meeting in 2 weeks. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.